sing the thunder song. When you hear the sound of thunder, don't you get too scared. Just grab your thunder buddy and say these magic words.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Thunder Buddies podcast, late night edition.
Zombie edition.
After
Zombie
hours
edition.
podcast edition.
It is, well, you know, it's only 12:30 here, but that would make it
2:30 there.
2:30
hours.
Oklahoma time. It's Memorial Day. It's officially Memorial Day. We have
In every time zone.
yeah. Well, probably not in New Zealand.
I
Probably
don't think they have Memorial Day in New Zealand.
Is it tomorrow in New Zealand? Is that what it is?
it is tomorrow.
Okay.
Does that mean the series the series is over in New Zealand?
It means the finals have started. Who's in it? Who's in
New
it?
Zealanders know.
Salutations.
You want to know? You want to know something? Tomorrow, because it's Memorial Day, there's going to be a really good crowd tomorrow.
They'll be early.
From tip, they'll be early. That's been
You would think.
been a fact.
We'll find out. We'll find out.
We will. I'm well. Game 7, you would assume.
You would think. Yeah.
Yeah, just because traffic's been such an issue, and they've had late arriving crowds because of work days and in the Bay Area.
I'm a little bit skeptical on that workday stuff. We're not talking about Oracle Arena is not populated by a bunch of hard hats who have to get their union rep to let them off work early to
yeah, but they need to like drive across the bay and stuff, and
It seems like there's traffic at every point of the day in California.
That's another good point.
yeah, and I don't know. I mean, maybe there still will be on Memorial Day then, but no, I mean that place I would expect to be. Just,
It should be nuts though because of what their team has done.
Yeah.
'Cause they were a little trepidatious when last time we flew into Oakland, and now they just can't keep buzzing. I mean, they're just ecstatic about it.
As they should.
Our plane was just nuts over it.
the the person over the intercom.
No, well, the flight attendant was jabbering, but I mean, like people on the board talking Warriors, Game 7. I heard a spirited conversation between three strangers about how long Steven Adams had been in the league.
Please continue.
Do tell.
Well,
Tell
I mean,
us
they
about this
just talked
conversation.
about Steven Adams, and the one guy said he's always in the wrong position. Wrong for me. He said right for the Thunder, but wrong for me. So they're impressed with Steven Adams.
I keep going on these Bay Area radio stations. They just want to talk about Steven Adams. They're like, this is Steven Adams. I just did not realize how tough he is and polished he is. Where did that come from? Is this a new thing? That's what they keep asking me.
Well, he's a ball-playing fool. There isn't any question about that.
And then I know you've told me this before, but at least I've gone on at least 3 to 4 radio stations where when I mention Steven Adams is 22, they're like, no, 22, that's wrong, right? Just because he doesn't look
he looks
it,
about
he doesn't play it.
34.
The hair enhances things significantly.
Yo, he made some play. It wasn't talked about because there's plenty of other things to talk about
The
Game
poster
6.
got completely erased.
That was a dunk and a half.
And it was like, somebody tweeted it too, but it's just like, is there another person in the world that, considering everything that led up to it, which was 2 groin hits, and you got to remember, one time when Draymond Green hit him in the groin, he stood there and yelled at him about it, like, because he scored 2, just so. Remember when Draymond Green hit the 3 in his face, or in Game 2 right early, and then was like kind of getting in his ear and stuff? Like, so all of that leads up to it. And then Steven Adams poster dunks him, doesn't react, runs down the court like he just made a layup in transition. It's like, is there another basketball player that wouldn't at least like let out a roar, look at the guy, do anything?
I don't know, but never before have I wished the podcast were videoed so they could see your shimmy, 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 trying to tell people how Steven Adams ran down court.
It was a good shimmy.
He kind of
It's like a waddle shimmy.
No matter how many times you do it, our listeners are not going to be able to see it.
We need the simulcast. We need next year. We need to get the simulcast going.
Yeah, next year.
Uh-oh,
When
next
will
year.
next year be?
Well, here or in New Zealand. I mean, there's not a lot of optimism that they can win Game 7.
Let's ask Kevin Durant when
19%. I give him a 19% chance of winning tomorrow night. Or
Really?
tonight.
19.
19%.
Why so low?
Why so high?
120. That's a good question. 124. 100-24. That's a home team's record in Game 7. Now,
I talked with Billy.
that's about an 81% winning percentage. Now, most teams that have lost Game 7 on the road have not been as good as this Thunder team. Every team that has won Game 7 at home has not been as good as the Warriors. So it's a tall task. Splash Mountain, if you were.
That should have been our headline, man. I came up with it. I was pumped. I never really come up with headlines. Like, I'm usually working, and by the time I'm done. And
What were you, Splash Down? That's pretty good.
We used Splash Down last night. We should have used Splash Mountain as our cover for
the
today.
Monday
Instead,
paper.
we did
Yeah.
Golden Opportunity. It's a nice cover. I just like the head.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe
Splash
they didn't want
Mountain
two
is-
splashes in a row. Maybe they thought we had so many days of kicking. We need to spread it out.
That should have been the game day. I mean, that should have been the Sunday headline after the game. That should have been the headline. It would have been a little bit different today, but
I chatted with today's practice. Sunday's practice was surprisingly thin media crowd. I'd say there was maybe 12 media members, about 4 or 5 of them asking questions, and it kind of dispersed quickly. Durant talked, Adams talked. Durant I thought was really good. I mean, you can go online and watch. We put up the video. But when Donovan was done talking, I ended up walking over somewhere, and he was coming into one of their little media offices because he needed a box score. And but he was in a pretty good mood, and I sat there and probably chatted with him for 5-10 minutes, and like he's pretty confident. Like, you know how you can get a genuine sense of I was just like, how you feeling, coach? And it was like not, I wasn't like recording him. It wasn't like a media setting. So I'm kind of putting it out there right now. But I mean, you just like, he just seemed like he was feeling good about it. His thing is like, look, we've played toe to toe with this team.
No, it's true.
Like this isn't like everyone talks about the 73 win Warriors. Like, if they don't just melt down late last night, which look, we can talk about that, is very much a concern as it has been all season. They just win this series in 6, and everyone's saying they're the better team. They were the better team in the series for a lot of.
It's not like he's gotten run off the floor coaching wise either. Like, he should be confident going into Game 7. But Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook have got to do their job in the last 2 minutes of the game.
I just think this. What happened in the last 2 minutes didn't happen in a vacuum.
Right.
And what happened in the last 2 minutes with Thompson and Curry just drop kicking in the shots, Westbrook and Durant totally melting down, that 2 minutes is going to have an effect on the game tomorrow night.
It's going to have an effect in the beginning of the game. It's going to have an effect if the game's close at the end.
I mean, maybe at the end, but I will say something. I think the idea that the emotion of that night will linger over into Game 7, I think that's a little exaggerated. People say, well, they just got to play the game 48 hours later. It's 48 hours later. Like, think about how different, you know what I mean? Like, if they had to play it 48 minutes later, then they're still thinking about
48 days later. It's possible that it will have lasting ramifications 48 years later.
It will, but guess what? Guess how it won't. And guess how they know it won't? If they just go out and win Game 7, they have a chance. Look, you're right as far as like
You say it so matter of fact. If they just go out and win Game 7, it's like, this is the thing.
But I just mean they know they have this chance.
Yeah, no.
To where if they won Game 7, literally Game 6 has no meaning for this franchise.
No, absolutely. And it's like,
so why would Game 6 linger? Like it should fuel them even more.
Well,
because what you're saying is, if they win Game 7, that's the end result, but that comes after what the Game 6 effect would have in game. If the Warriors go on this downhill run of points and the Thunder starts flubbing the ball around, that's going to be the effect of Game 6. They're going to be like, crap.
We
just did this.
Where I could maybe see it late in the game, just because we've seen it all season. But where I think people are over, they're acting like the Thunder's going to come out like wounded and funeral style, like not have the energy. I think it's going to be the opposite. This team is now the underdog again, where they've thrived this postseason. They're desperate as hell right now.
Well, I hope
Back
you're
against
right.
the wall. And guess what? Guess when they're at their best. When they're frantic defensively. And I think they're going to come out frantic
Now
defensively.
that if they are frantic defensively, then they'll make it an interesting night.
I'm going to pick. I mean, I'm not.
What'd you
It's
say?
not like I'm
What'd
like
you say?
putting it on record.
Keep-
No.
Go back to that previous sentence. I'm going to pick what?
The
What are you gonna
Warriors. The Warriors.
pick? Okay.
The Warriors are. The Warriors are 7-point favorites, and they should be 7-point favorites. But I think the idea that this is this incredibly unclimbable mountain, Splash Mountain, is false.
Well, I don't think it's unclimbable, but I think it's an 81% mountain.
Get out of here with these percentages.
it's
How did you
gonna-
come up with that?
100 to 24.
He does math in his head really quickly.
What's 100 to 24?
The home team in Game 7s.
You know what? None of that matters.
That's what they always
it
say.
It doesn't matter.
But if it didn't
why
matter,
does what
me
the Bucks and
because it shows
Pistons
you
did in like
it shows you what home
1987?
courts mean. It shows you what kind of Game 7 pressure there is. Guys, we're a bunch of whipped dogs just because of people knowing that all this stuff matters. That's why they got us on this 2-2-1-1-1-1 format rather than 2-3-2, which would save wear and tear on all of America.
But what I'm saying is like what happened with the Bucks and Pistons in whatever year or like that just doesn't matter.
But it's
You know, it's still a problem.
It's naive to not look at it and say, hey, out of 124 times, the home team has won 100 times in Game 7s.
The only thing
Like-
I'm looking at is the Warriors are 7-point favorites, and that seems like a right number. I mean, that's you know what I mean. Like they're
That's
definitely
way more irrelevant than my number.
No,
That's just what Vegas thinks the American public thinks. That's all 7-point favorite means. What does Vegas think that the American public thinks? And Vegas thinks that the American public is a bunch of fools because they know they can just get their money on bets.
Which they've been doing.
I
for
guess just my
100
thing is like
100
people have
years.
this like thing that I don't know. It's just like this thought that Game 6 and like everything that mattered in the Thunder's chance. Suddenly they're just gonna. They're just going to be so depressed going in the game. But the
It's
truth
not-
is, like
not
if the
depressed.
Warriors, if the length's the problem for the Warriors early, and then suddenly it's 14-6 Thunder in
Yeah.
the first few minutes, then their crowd's nervous. Then the Warriors are a little nervous.
But-
This,
I don't think the Warriors are going to get nervous if it's 14-6 because that's what last night. That's what I'm saying. The effect of last night was an emboldenment of Warrior confidence and the emergence, what has to be, of Thunder doubt that no matter what kind of shape we're in, we're going to find a way to lose it. When
they
you're
beat
up
this
7,
team 3 times.
yeah, but then you're up 7 with 5 minutes left, 4.5, whatever it was, 4.5 minutes left with a chance to make the NBA Finals. And what you do from that point on is commit turnovers on 6 of your 8 possessions. And the only way you score is on a Andre Robertson follow shot. To me, a little bit of doubt creeps in, while on the other side, a lot of confidence builds up. I just think it's a tall task.
The start, man. The start is critical. They can't get down 10, 12 points early. They got to come out and they got to weather that tide, and they can't have those. They can't have those moments like in game, I guess 3, or which game was it? 2. I think it was 2, where they had the moments at the end of the second quarter.
Yep, 2.
Where it just completely slipped away from them, and they had that 8-0, and the Warriors closed on that 8-0 run in the second quarter.
Russell Westbrook was really bad defensively last night.
No, he was. He was.
He kind of reverted a little bit. I think he let Curry loose sometimes, and he's parted for a couple Thompson threes. Some of them are tough where he wasn't playing hard enough defense, but Thompson was like 30 foot out, and he was like, well, I guess he's not playing on me, so he shot it. And it's like, well, the guy is shooting a 30-foot three, but the way how hot he was, he should have been on him. But at the same time, I'm not trying to sit here. Like I said, I'd pick the Warriors. I understand. I'm just trying to kind of present the other side of things because I think it's being looked at by people too much as like a foregone conclusion. But you mentioned doubt creeping into this team's. My thing is is Russell Westbrook doubting himself right now? Like honestly, no. The answer is no.
I don't know. I don't know. He's never going to let us know that. He's never going to show us that.
what is
He'd
Russell
go to his
Westbrook
grave.
down? Like,
However, what we saw last night was different. We saw 6 turnovers on the last 8 possessions, and they got increasingly worse to the point where 40 seconds left, 35 or 45, whatever how much.
they couldn't
Warriors up
inbound.
3. Thunder gets a stop, makes them shoot not a very good 3. Robertson, I think, rebounds,
No.
flips it to Durant.
No,
No,
so
to Durant.
look, this
rebounded.
is
and
look,
Durant is playing hot potato with the ball. He doesn't want it in his hands. Flips it to Russ in traffic, and it gets knocked away.
Draymond knocked it away.
And then the last 2 possessions, they can't even get the ball in bounds.
That in a sense, I think kind of helps my point that I think they were shell shocked in the moment where they had just had the 3 turnovers. A couple of them, I did the whole post, looked at them. I mean, one of them was like, Westbrook's arm gets slapped in transition and it fumbles off his foot. And they had to call it out on Russ, even though they originally called it out on the Warriors, even though, you could see Draymond fouled him. The Durant one, I think that was because he had just had those few turnovers. He was feeling it. He was tightening up then. And that's where, I think he could tighten up if it's a very close game in Game 7. But I think that was just because, and then the inbound turnovers. I think that was because you saw it in their faces then. They knew they'd blown it
Well,
then.
and you may be right. They may be able to throw
I'm
it
just
off.
saying,
They may be able to throw it off.
I think people say 48 hours like it's not a lot of time. Where in truth, it's a very long time. You can regather. You get to sit
I
there.
just think it's the kind of thing that for so long this team has thought of itself as good enough, just not very lucky. The meniscus, the Ibaka 2 games at the start of 14 West Finals, all the calamities of last year. They've been good enough. They just haven't been fortunate enough. Last night, all of a sudden you thought, maybe this team just isn't good enough. Maybe when it comes to crunch time, they kick the ball off their shoe and the other team makes 30-footers.
And to add to that, not just last night, but just the entire situation of being up 3-1. I mean, you're thinking about that now. You're not just thinking about Game 6. You're thinking about, well, we missed our opportunity in Game 5 too. I mean, I think that kind of adds to the mounting tension of a Game 7. Like, man, we're going to be one of these few teams to allow this to happen in NBA history, if it does happen.
I just think they need to look at it as an opportunity to wipe that from the history books.
Oh, no question.
what
They
I mean?
need to look at it that way. They need to look at it as we need to play better and execute in these in-game moments, and not. I don't think that. I guess to go against what you're saying, they don't need to look at it as this historical thing. They need to look at it as we need to just play better tonight, in this one-off.
I just mean look, by tomorrow midnight Oklahoma time, Game 6 could go down as the blackest mark on this team, on this franchise, and their chance. But like I said, you just need to look at Game 7 as a way to make Game 6 irrelevant. They really can make Game 6 irrelevant.
Maybe here's the way to look at it. Maybe this is what you're saying is the pressure's off the Thunder.
Yeah, they're back to
They've screwed up the series. They've screwed the pooch already. They did that in Game 6.
Where have they been the best in these playoffs when people have written them off in a sense?
I guess.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they haven't had a Game 7 on the road yet either.
So it'll be
And they
fascinating
haven't had a 3-1
theater.
lead yet either.
Here's the good news. You know what the Thunder needs in Game 7? They need Kevin Durant to play like Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook to play like Russell Westbrook. That's what they need, because the other stuff they need, they're getting. Serge Ibaka is playing well. Andre Robertson is playing unbelievable. Steven Adams is playing great. They're getting what they need from the guys that you used to worry about.
And the truth is, this team's, I think, and this is why, I think on the road isn't as monumental as it's being made out to be. It's a really mentally tough team. Steven Adams is, maybe the most mentally tough player in the league at 22. Russell Westbrook, I think is, in a sense. Andre Robertson, I mean, It's a pretty tough dude. Dion Waiters, like these are guys I think can go in this environment. I think the guy to worry about the most right now because of his struggles is Durant. Just not that he's going to play the worst on the team, but like from the level you need him and from where you think he might play, what kind of Durant are you going to get?
This is a silly question, but is he capable of a 14 of 23 night?
You know, he had a really nice night in this series at one point, but I think it was accompanied by 8 turnovers. So he needs an efficient night without the turnovers. Because turnovers, you can just basically add them to your missed shots. Let me look at his game log. He had
during the last 2 minutes.
Game 2, Game 3, he went 11 of 18, 10 of 15.
Well, that's what they need.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, he's 27% from 3 in the playoffs.
Maybe he's shooting too many threes.
But I mean, he's like a 40% career 3-point shooter, you know? I mean, I thought he was rushing last night. Man, was he rushing.
Maybe if he got around him, maybe he'd get to the line more.
This is the Thunder's by like actual rotation players that shoot threes. Serge Ibaka's 45% in the playoffs, number 1 on the team. Dion Waiters is 41. He's number 2. Robertson's third best on the team, 36%. Morrow 35%, Westbrook 32%, Randy Foye 30%, Kevin Durant 27%. 9 to 35 from 3 in this series. Klay Thompson hit 11 threes last night. Kevin Durant has 9 in the series.
No. He's got to have a good game for them to have a chance tomorrow night. It's going to have to happen. That's what I'm saying. Even if the Thunder is not psychologically damaged, which I happen to think they might be, could be, but even if they're not, the Warriors are on a high. The Warriors, despite what they say, have to feel invincible right now because they've avoided the bullet.
You're right, but I'm kind of just wanting to play devil's advocate with you guys right now, but a lot of times when are teams at their most vulnerable? When they're maybe too confident.
And that is a good point from the standpoint that the Warriors have been prone to kind of being lackadaisical with their ball security, throwing the ball around, getting cocky, and the Thunder have taken full advantage of that. And the way Steph's turned the ball over in this series, I mean, I think that could play in their favor.
Yeah, you know, if you know, these guys are emboldened to shoot 30-footers, and then Klay Thompson's just, you know, his shot's just not as on. And then suddenly remember some of the shots in Game 1? Remember the reason why the Warriors lost Game 1? Basically was because in the fourth quarter, remember like the hit ahead, the corner, and Thompson's catching it. There's 21 on the clock. There's 4 Thunder rebounders back, and he's shooting like a fade away from the corner. You know, he's hitting that in Oklahoma City last night if he's not hitting that in Game 7.
Here's what... You know, we talk about Thompson. He started 3 of 11.
Yeah, he and Durant both started poorly.
Off in the first quarter.
Not off.
It was off.
Oh, Robertson was playing really well.
He's having a way better series than Steph Curry.
I used this earlier talking about these teams, but if you just flew in from Mars and knew basketball but not the league, you'd sit there and think, well, this Klay Thompson fella's way better than Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Why do they chant MVP when Curry?
Yeah.
What will you tell me about this MVP? Is that like spark plug of the year?
And like clearly their best player because like I mean look, Draymond Green is like doing good things. He had that big steal last night. He's getting rebounds. He's blocking shots. But Thompson has been clearly their best player in this series and in these playoffs.
Yeah.
And
that goes back to my MVP argument. When you watch the Cavaliers play,
you're never like, man, that Kyrie.
It's never a question.
Yeah, it's a good.
With the Thunder, you do
point.
because of Westbrook and Durant. You never think that way.
It's a good point. Yeah, you're not like, man, that Kevin Love fella.
Irving, he's all over the place. He's guarding everybody.
No, it's true.
I did think there were some positives from last night. As I mentioned, the support guys were all fantastic, I thought. The Andrew Bogut Express was knocked off its rails again. And the bench, Golden State bench, was outscored last night.
Ennis Cantor had some positive minutes.
Ennis
After-
Cantor was a plus
after the
15
after
in
the
10
stinker
minutes.
in Game 5, he had some positive
I
minutes.
got some emails, people saying, more Cantor, more Cantor.
That's tough.
Donovan was masterful in how he used
He
Cantor.
was. Yeah.
Put him in whenever he thought it would be the least damage defensively. Taking advantage mostly means Maurice Spates is on the court.
And you could tell. This is what I like from Donovan last night was he finally used Cantor. When he put him in the game, he said, let's pick and roll, get him downhill. Westbrook and Durant were clearly looking for him. They were called plays. He posted him up one time, and Cantor had a nice little post fadeaway. And that's the thing. Like, if you're going to have this guy on the court, you better use his offense.
Yeah, because you're going to get hurt on the defensive end.
So, yeah, no, I don't think there's going to be much more than about 10 minutes of him at most, which is what he got out of him last night.
This goes back to supporting the AC Slater theory of when the Thunder will win.
I'm not saying that we'll win. I'm just saying, like, let's not act like this is just
but people
a
forget
funeral we're walking to.
why is the Thunder in this series? Why is it 3-3? Why weren't they eliminated long ago?
Defense.
Because of their ability to switch on defense. And that's how they're going to be able to get out of town alive tomorrow night or tonight, Monday night. Is they still got to do that. You can't go changing your defense in Game 7. It's worked. Thompson had a game for the ages. You got to live with it. But the ability to switch on defense with Adams and Ibaka and all Durant and all the big guys gives the Thunder a chance.
The length is no joke. I mean, it's like 9 times per game. I'm like, it's either Draymond Green's driving and he won't even shoot a layup. He just keeps dribbling. Remember when Steph Curry went in and tried to go up with over Durant? I mean, he didn't try to go over Durant, but he was like trying to do some kind of whatever. Remember the time Curry traveled? Remember he was going in and he was going to shoot it, and then Durant was there, so he like double dribbled out. And they're like,
Well, Klay Thompson at crunch time last night goes in for a drive. Thunder runs him off the line. He goes in. Andre Robertson with 5 fouls blocks his shot. So the Thunder still has the capability of slowing down the Warriors.
Yeah, because guess what the Warriors can't do? They can't score inside the 3-point line very well in the Thunder.
And that's true.
So if they're not shooting threes that well.
So if they can play with that fanatical defense that you mentioned, they will have a chance.
The Warriors were, Barry, do the math for me here. The Warriors were 21 of 44 from 3 last night, and they were 36 of 87 overall. So 36 minus 21 is 15 of 43.
So about 35% on 2-pointers? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Not good.
So what the Thunder basically need to do,
here's the stat of the day. Here's the stat of the day from Game 6.
Well, it's just a 3-point
66
differential.
to 10.
Yeah.
The Thunder was outscored. Here's why.
Where do you get 10 from?
Because the Thunder made 3.
Yeah.
And then Westbrook was fouled on a 3-pointer, and he made one of the 3 foul shots.
Right.
And because Curry or Thompson, one of them was fouled on a 3 and made all 3. So because they made 21, so that's 63, and then the 3, 66 to 10. Here's another reason why you got to feel some confidence about the Thunder. The Warriors outscored them 66 to 10 on the 3-point line. If you outscore anybody in any area 66 to 10, the game should be over. The Thunder had a meltdown for the ages, and still the Warriors barely won.
Yeah.
If you get outscored 33 to 10 from the 3-point line, that's a monumental edge. And if they'd have just
21 of 44 to 3 of 23.
Thunder didn't shoot it well at all and probably shot too many.
Durant 1 of 8, Ibaka 1 of 6, Westbrook 0 of 5. Meanwhile, Thompson 11 of 18, Curry 6 of 13, Draymond Green 2 of 5. Draymond Green made more than anyone on the Thunder. Harrison Barnes 2 of 3. The Warriors may come out and just explode and erupt, and they're at home, and they may just have an avalanche and win. But so many factors in this series to me just point to that it's an even match.
If the Thunder will guard that 3-point line a little better, they'll have a chance. I just hope it's not a Game 7 like the 1985 World Series.
What was that?
Was that
Royals
the
and
Mets thing? Was that-
That
Cardinals?
was Cardinals Royals.
Yeah.
Game 6 did not go well.
okay.
Game 6 did not go well.
I
Game 6, the Cardinals had a chance to win. They let the Royals rally in the 6th inning. In the 9th inning, they get a bad call. Don Denkinger makes a bad call at first base. Kansas City rallies, wins the game. We go to Game 7, and it was a bloodbath. 10-0 or 10-1. Joaquin Andujar loses his cool, gets thrown out of the game. It was a mess. If the Thunder can hang in there, here's back to Eric's point about a good start. If the Thunder can get this game to the second half tight, well, then the residuals of Game 6 move away, and the Warriors think, uh-oh, this team's not going away. Now,
I
they're
keep trying to
confident-
tell you the residuals of Game 6 aren't.
I don't know.
That's only a
I don't-
storyline stuff for us,
I
and
don't think so.
But then Andre Iguodala will say, "Well, let me strip Kevin Durant real quick," and then the ball will get rolling again.
The first time
Andre Iguodala is impervious to all this pressure stuff.
and not mention Andre Iguodala's name until now.
That guy.
he had a great fourth order.
That guy.
I wonder if there's any chance you could get Steve Kerr to play Harrison Barnes more than Andre Iguodala.
Harrison
would help.
Barnes has been
I'd give it about
talk
a
about an
19%
unimpressive
chance.
series.
Here's what I thought.
You know what? He started Iguodala in the second half.
Second, which he says he never does, but he basically
Desperate.
said we talked about it and thought it might be a good idea considering the circumstances. With the circumstances being you were about to fall off the edge of the cliff. Here's the good news: it's possible that Andre Robertson someday could be as good as Andre Iguodala.
Andre,
he's never gonna shoot
Andre
threes as
Iguodala
well.
didn't have a great jump shot when he came into the league.
Has never been a great. There are times when Andre Iguodala couldn't make foul shots all that well.
Yeah.
Still are times.
He's made them in this series, but
He loves the Thunder.
he's not he's an interesting guy, but he's not a real polished offensive player.
He does the other stuff so well.
Yeah, he can pass and play make
Loving Andre,
and dribble
I
better
love
than
Andre
Robertson.
Iguodala.
Well, you love Robertson too.
I do love Robertson. Andre Robertson played
Great
a heck of a
series.
game. I got an
He-
email in the third quarter from a Thunder fan that said something like, "This guy is Andre Robertson is killing us," or Andre Robertson is you just can't use him. And I wanted to write back and say, do you have any concept of how basketball games are won and lost? They literally can't play without Andre Robertson. That's a literal statement.
He's the only person who guarded Klay Thompson worth a damn last night.
He's just
The
very
only
important in
person.
this series,
Very important.
in this match.
And he's becoming a really good. By the way, he scored in double figures like 4 times this series.
Part of that is just because of what the Warriors are doing, but yes.
But guess what? Guess what? Every time he dunks or makes a layup or whatever, guess what they do? They put 2 points up on the board. His points count.
Yeah. I tweeted this during the game. I said I think he probably has eclipsed peak Tabo defensively.
I saw that. I don't know.
Dude, what? How did you see that? Is my question.
Well, I made me one. Tabo was really good.
How did you see that? Is my question. Because you were not at
We
Twitter.
put it in the newspaper this morning.
We did.
It made in, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Okay. Well, what are your thoughts on it?
Tabo was really good. Now, I love Robertson, but Tabo was really good at the peak, which would have been 12 and 13 probably.
I don't think Tabo could ever did he ever slide the way Robertson can slide and get up?
He
and
could do all that. Here's the difference. Tabo really couldn't guard a big guy as well as I think Robertson either can or will be able to. In other words, during some of the LeBron mess, when they, either in regular season or in the finals, when they were having trouble with LeBron, they would shift over Tabo and try it for short periods, and it was a disaster. It wouldn't work. I actually think they could put Andre Robertson on LeBron James for stretches if they happen to play Cleveland, and it might go okay.
If you're Donovan, how do you carve out your rotation tomorrow? Durant has played 45 plus minutes 3 times this series. He'd only done it 1 time previously this whole season. Is the fatigue getting to him? He's not shooting it well. He's not shooting well.
I think you got to go all in.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear.
Westbrook and Durant
get very minimal short bursts of breaks.
3:44 minimum
for sure.
Because Foy's becoming less and less relevant. Anthony Morrow, bless his soul.
I think you play 7 guys. Enes Kanter gets his 8. You squeeze out 8 to 10 from him.
Dion played 36 last night.
Yeah,
it's not like they're
going small.
Yeah.
That's in part due to Robertson too, because he had the foul trouble. I think Robertson at 29. Robertson's going to play 30 more than he played last night.
This is not backseat driving. This is front seat driving. Because I told Eric the Red this. If he wants to hack strategy, he needs to do it at an offensive foul shot. Put somebody in. Put in
Kyle Singler
or Cameron Payne or somebody.
You know who's a perfect
and burn that foul there.
You know who truthfully is the most perfect hack player ever? It's Enes Kanter. You put him out there, he's hacking, so their offense is a bad free throw shooter shooting it, and then you have him offensively, and then he's hacking, and then you have him offensively.
Now it's a good point, but that's a good third quarter. If you're gonna go in the first half, don't do it with anybody you might need in the second half. Because it cost him last night.
Yeah, Billy's trying to say he didn't regret it because he said he didn't.
He had to regret it, though. Because
No, it was right. It played a factor.
Yeah, that was an extra foul.
You know what looms large? That crash and pass foul where Robertson passes and then kind of crashes into Draymond Green. I think that got his 5th because not only does that give Robertson his 5th, Serge hit a corner 3. Yeah. But, they wave it off.
And I think were they up 6 or something at the time, I think.
But yeah, no, that's interesting. All right. Well, I feel like I've kind of tried to lay out a more optimistic outlook for on the ledge.
Nice job. You've done a nice job.
On the ledge, Thunder fans. Now let's what's the big concerns? I mean, what I'm kind of envisioning potentially is a
134 to 96. That's the big.
Is like a Durant. I don't mean like score wise. I mean like factors in the game. I see like a Durant Westbrook out of control first quarter where they're 1 of 8, 1 of 7 combined, or I mean both of them are something like that. They're just shooting wild layups. Westbrook's a little out of control.
I see a scenario like in Game 2 where the game gets away from them for a small pocket and they can't get back into it. Where they play really well, and then all of a sudden, Dion Waiters might miss a layup in transition. Westbrook fumbles the ball away, and then there's an 8-0, 9-0 run, and then they can't get back in it from there. And then Steph gets into smoking Steph mode because he hasn't really had. I mean, he's had maybe 2 moments in this series where he's been smoking Steph. Game 2.
Where's the smoking Steph coming from? What did you just make this up?
I just made it up. I just made it off the top of my head. Smoking Steph, 15 straight points for the Warriors.
Smoking Thompson's more apt.
Well,
I just mean for different reasons.
Clay's gonna be. Oh man, Clay's gonna be Clay at this point in time. He's been outstanding the entire series. It's we just haven't seen that vintage Steph yet. Maybe once. 15 points.
Yeah, I think where the Thunder really an important parts of the game will be Steve Kerr trusts his depth more than Billy Donovan trusts his depth, which means he's gonna have lineups where there's it's Spates and Livingston and all these bench players and maybe only one of Steph and Draymond and Clay. I think the Thunder really needs to take advantage in those areas of the game. They did. That's why Kanter's plus-minus was so big because he was playing against those backups, and the Thunder really rumbled against those guys in Game 6. So I think that's where the Thunder need to punish the Golden State. Anything else? I know we got to get to bed. So
we do have to get to bed. But I'm encouraged by your optimism, AC Slater.
It's less of optimism and more I'm just kind of fighting against this idea that it's just like I said that it's a foregone conclusion because I don't think it is.
It's not, but I can't help but think about all the times we watched them this season not do the right things and not have those habits that we talked about in terms of like taking care of the ball in late game situations. And we thought that they had it like, and I'm not saying like they're going full on back to like where they were, but man, last night was like the most glaring like flashback to regular season moment of the entire playoffs.
It was, but then the truth is, guess what? They're here. They are in Game 7 in the West Finals against the Warriors.
Totally.
If I told you that at the beginning of the season, if I told you that 3 weeks ago, you'd be like, wow, they must be playing well.
And
I
they
understand
are.
that they melted down
well.
in Game 6, but I'm just like...
I guess my point is this. Losing Game 6 is not the capital crime. Losing Game 6 the way they did makes you wonder if... I don't think they're blowing them out tomorrow, which means if they're going to win, it's going to get to crunch time tight. Is there any reasonable optimism?
Yeah. If they'd have lost Game 6 the way they lost Game 5, I would be far more optimistic.
Yeah, me too.
But the regular season flubbery that we saw in Game 6 makes me feel not great about Game 7. Not to mention that it's a Game 7 on the road.
They will tie game, 2 minutes left. Is Durant and Westbrook going to pass the ball to somebody else? I don't know if they are.
They just gotta get a shot up on the glass because they're rebounding everything.
That's right. If they'd have just got, here's the deal. If they would have 6 turnovers in the last 5 minutes, 8 possessions, give them 2
one attempt.
So turnovers. So if they'd have taken 4, if they'd have just made one of those 4 shots, there's 2 points. They'd have rebounded one of the other 3 and put it in because that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
If they'd have just done that, if they'd have gone 1 for 4.
Yeah. They only had 1 attempt in that stretch.
Yeah. Well, they had 2 attempts because Robertson was the second chance on that possession. Durant missed 1 and then Westbrook missed 1 on the same possession. And then Robertson grabbed it and put it in. But just get the ball. It's, you know what? It's a little bit like women's basketball in college. Missed shot in women's basketball is not a bad play because that means you didn't turn it over. And that's generally what you see a lot. And the Thunder was just playing women's basketball, just turning it over, not even giving themselves a chance.
All right, guys. Well, it's good. We
Hey,
will.
either way, we're going to get a great game tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what? I thought you were going to say, literally, thought you were going to say, either way, we're going to get a great lunch at Fisherman's Wharf.
What?
Hey, I don't think we're going to get a great game necessarily. Maybe we will. Hopefully we will. But we might get the 1985 World Series.
All right. We will talk to you again post Game 7.
Durant, pull-up jumper, up the rim, and and the Thunder win! Come on, let's sing the Thunder song. When you hear the sound of thunder, don't you get too scared. Just grab your Thunder buddy and say these magic words.